Hey, what's up, fight fans? It's Will here, back once again for another fight card prediction. We're going to be here for UFC 236 from down in the south, Atlanta, Georgia, as Max Holloway faces off against Dustin the Diamond Poirier in a rematch of many years ago. Both young fighters back in the day, as they face off for the interim UFC lightweight title. And in the co-main event, we've got Kelvin Gastelum against the last stylebender, Israel Adesanya, for the interim middleweight championship. So a couple of interim title fights main eventing this card here. And a pretty solid card, to say the least. A little break last week, much needed. Looking forward to this card, though. I think the fights, especially at the top end of the card, are really good. So I'm looking forward to getting into that. Like, comment, subscribe. Help me on my mission to hit 3,000 subs by the end of 2019. I think we've got about another 360 to go. We can get there. Help me out. And yeah, let's see if we can hit that goal of 3,000 by the end of the year. Sorry about the dog just jumping around everywhere, but hey. Yeah, so let's get into this card here. And we're going to be starting off bantamweight division. Brandon Davis, Randy Costa. I'm going to come straight to the bat here and say I'm picking Brandon Davis. No idea why Randy Costa is getting a spot in the UFC with 2 minutes and 50 seconds of fight time as a professional. Fights out of Joe Lozon's camp. It was actually kind of tedious watching the fights of Randy Costa due to the commentator. So if you're going to be watching his fights, watch without the commentary because they're just so biased. In my opinion, it's unreal. He's fought a load of nothing but cans, literal cans, with very bad records, older guys as well. Guy's got a following from the company that he fought from before. He's got this Zohan kick and so on and so on. But he's fought nothing. Literally nothing. This guy shouldn't even be on the contender series, which is coming up, in my opinion. He shouldn't be on there. So for him to get signed to the UFC with a 4-0 record in 2 minutes and 50 seconds as a pro, nah. Brandon Davis ain't that good either. He's gonna lose a lot more fights in the UFC than he's ever going to win. The kind of added thing with this one here is he's dropping down to 135 for the first time, so that's sketchy. But his losses are to tougher guys. So Zabit, Barzola, Bochniak. He's got a win in the UFC over Peterson, who we know is a kind of walking hitting bag, and you can get him. And Austin Arnett in the Dana White Contender Series. So he has bigger fights, he has more experience. That counts for a lot. Skill set wise, not good really at all. He's more of a striker, can be taken down. We've seen him submit against Zabit. The big thing for me here is just he's dropping down to 135. How's that going to affect him moving down here? And like I say, Randy Costa, watching his fights, not impressed from the opposition that he's been fighting and so on. It's just it's a curious one to see why this guy is literally on the UFC roster, the main roster, when I don't think he should ever be on even Dana White's Contender Series. So I'm going to pick Brandon Davis. I think he outlasts him. I think striking wise, I think like I say, Randy Costa seems to me like a kind of pretty fluent striker, but I think Brandon Davis has seen a lot better strikers than what this kid has. I don't know about his ground game. Coming from Joe Lozon, do you think he's got to have a fairly half-decent ground game? Like I said, I'm going to pick Brandon Davis. Just wasn't impressed with what I've seen from Randy Costa, and shouldn't really be in the UFC, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I'll pick Brandon Davis. Probably a pretty sloppy decision. Would it surprise me if Randy Costa won? No, because like I say, Brandon Davis is, like I say, he'll lose more fights in the UFC than will ever win. But I would, just with the experience factor, I think Brandon Davis for me just has to be the pick. Lauren Mueller, Poliana Botelho. I'm going to pick Botelho here. I think this is going to be a kind of slow-paced striking affair. I think that maybe Lauren Mueller will look to try and take this to the ground. I don't know how well she will take it down there. We've seen that Botelho lost to a really good submission grappler in Cynthia Calvillo last time out. But Calvillo's, like, she's a bit of a kind of beast on the ground. You have to be very careful with her. She's got some really good submissions. She did get caught in the first round, which kind of surprised me, especially after Calvillo missed weight. I think a lot of people were on Patel. I was on it, obviously, before I bet her before, but that turned out to be a kind of bad pick in there. Pearl Gonzalez, Sayuri Kondo with a couple of wins. That body kick, that's one of her main kind of attributes and one of her main weapons. That she's quite a long striker, a long stance, so she can fight at length quite well. But like I say, not a couple of girls that aren't really that great. Mueller's coming off that loss to Yanan Wu, where she got submitted. I think she was like a -5, so a -500 favourite, and got submitted. So yeah, it says a lot about her and this matchup. I like Botelho. I think on the feet she's just got a bit more power. She's got a bit more length. I think she's got more variety. I think she, like I say, she's hard to take down. Pearl Gonzalez in that fight really tried to take her down against the cage. Had not had much luck at all. She reversed position where she put Gonzalez against the cage. She reversed those positions fairly decent, and I just think she's the slightly better fighter than Mueller. Again, would I be surprised if Mueller went and won? No, but I'm going to pick Botelho for the win here. Actually, I might pick her via TKO in the late second to third round in that one there. Going back to the bantamweight division, we've got Montel Jackson against Andre Sukumtath. I think I said in my last video, I'm never picking Andre Sukumtath ever again after the Sean O'Malley incident. So I'm sticking to that here. Very low fight IQ. Has some power, has some striking. Had to be careful. If you engage with him, you can get hit with shots like he caught Luke Sanders with. But even in the fight with was it Jackson, Jonathan Martinez? Sorry, there was times in that fight where Martinez, not that he was getting off much, but he was hitting him with good strikes. There was just some aspects of that fight where Sukumtath, just bad fight IQ. You can go back many fights back into his CES MMA days where the guy's got really bad fight IQ. And like the O'Malley one just kind of tops everything. But you have to be careful because he has got big power. Was losing that fight to Sanders. All it takes is one shot in this game and you can be knocked out. Montel Jackson is, I think he's got the potential to be really good. And they had that scheduled fight between Brian Kelleher and Montel first time, and Brian Kelleher pulled out. And I was on Brian Kelleher that first time. Then it kind of gave me more opportunity to just kind of look into Montel Jackson a little bit. And I went with him the last one there, and he absolutely went through Brian Kelleher with ease in that fight and submitted him with a Darce choke. Lots of attributes that you look at thinking this kid has got a lot in his side going forward. Big, tall guy, big reach, southpaw stance, big hands. I hear that the UFC always going about. He's got very, very big hands, and looks like he's a well-rounded fighter with just a vast array of good techniques. I think he's the kind of fighter that between every fight camp, he's going to get better. You're going to see different strides in his ability kind of going forward. And that's something that I think you have to look at and see who's the kind of guys that will maybe give him problems going forward. Because, like I said, I do see him making big jumps in skill ability going forward. And I like him here. I like him this one here. I think his strikes are going to be more on point. I think he's going to land more output than what Sukumtath will. He doesn't absorb that many strikes, where Sukumtath is very, very hittable. And with the extra length advantage and the southpaw stance, I think it could cause problems for Sukumtath. Like I say, the only thing I really worry about is just him getting caught with a big shot. He's still a young fighter, and that could very, very, very much happen. But yeah, I think he can get takedowns in this fight. I think he's got the better submission game. And like I said, I think he's got a more varied striking arsenal than what Sukumtath has. And I can see the progression that this guy can make. I don't know what the betting line is. Let me bring up the betting lines. I put that away a second ago there because I try not to be based off betting lines. But he is a very large favourite in this fight. And I can see why it's that he's minus 485, so nearly a 5-1 favourite. I wouldn't put him that high, this young in his career. But I would definitely put him in maybe your -200, maybe tops -300, but up -485. Your kind of values on Sukumtath, but there's no way I would ever bet Andre Sukumtath after that Andre's Sean O'Malley incident there. So I'm going to go Montel Jackson via submission. I think he's got big limbs. If he catches you in those scrambles, or he gets an opportunity to get those arms around you somewhere, he is going to find a submission there. So I'm going to go Montel Jackson submission, round number 2. Interesting fight here. Very, very interesting fight. Curtis Millender, Belal Muhammad. Curtis Millender's getting that short turnaround after that. He pretty much got his ass beat against Zaleski dos Santos, and that's one of my kind of biggest eye-openers of the year. I had Millender winning a kind of close fight, but he got blown out of the water. And you've seen the deficiencies that guy has with his takedown defense. I mean, Sayar did it. I think Max Griffin took him down. And Zaleski, all it took was one takedown, and then his better jiu-jitsu came through. I mean, he only fought literally not even a month ago, so he took no damage. I know he got submitted, but he's got a quick turnaround here against Belal, who is super, super tough. Very good fighter, in my opinion. He can mix it up really well. Good striking with a takedown game as well. He lands more strikes. I think he is the more accurate striker. He uses his jab very well, but he can get pieced upon as well. You've seen fights where he's got his face is bloodied up. He's taking some shots. He definitely absorbs more strikes than what Millender does. Millender kind of uses that knee kind of front forward style where he can kind of use the teep kicks to keep it distance, but he can lift the knee up and kind of strike at the same time. And like I say, I don't think he gets hit near as much as what Belal does. When it comes to takedowns, that's where I think Belal's going to come after him here. And is a month enough time to get ready for that? I don't think it is. Coming from one fight to another, you're not working on your takedown defense. Your camp's going to be short enough as it is. So yeah, it's. I actually really want to pick Curtis Millender here. Belal was an underdog at one point. And if you got Belal as an underdog, great play. Like I say, for some reason, I really want to be in Curtis Millender here. I don't know. I still think he's a good fighter, I think, but he has got a deficiency that is clear to see. And I think that Belal can use it. I think he can mix it up well with his strikes, and he can take this fight to the ground. If he takes the fight to the ground once, he will do it numerous times throughout the fight, in my opinion, because Millender has not had enough time to rectify the deficiency in his game. Like I say, I want to pick Millender here, but I'm going to pick Belal Muhammad for the simple reason I think he can mix it up more, and I think he can get takedowns. And Millender's shown me nothing to defend in takedowns. So I'm going to go Belal Muhammad via decision. Just don't get caught, I think, because Millender's still crafty in the feet. But I am going to pick Belal Muhammad via decision here. Moving on to the prelims, first fight in the prelim card here. Boston Salmon, Khalid Taha. I'm seeing a lot of love for Boston Salmon. I can see why. I'm not super impressed. I'm not blown away with what I see from Boston Salmon yet. I think there is certain aspects to his game. I think his boxing's very crisp. We've seen, I think his last fight was against Ricky Turcios. And I remember speaking to Justin Buchholz after that. He was in Glasgow the week after. In fact, it was in the same week, because it was through the week. He was in Glasgow with Cynthia Calvillo. And he says that Ricky Turcios just did not turn up in that fight. To be honest with you, I think Boston Salmon was just the better fighter. He kind of beat Turcios' ass up a little bit. Before that, he lost that to a 3-3 guy in Zach Riley. I think when I watched that, it was a little bit. I don't think that fight should have really went to a split. I think Salmon should have got it, but it's still a loss regardless. And there was some aspects of that fight that were a little bit eye-opening in watching Boston Salmon. And I've seen people say, why is he such a low favourite against Khalid Taha? He's clearly the better fighter. Well, Khalid Taha has got double amount of experience he's got coming up through the European circuit. And you can say what you want about the European circuit. If I know what it's like over here, it's a very, very tough circuit. You don't get many kind of easy fights. And I know that majority of Taha's victories are against kind of lower opposition with not great records. But still a very, very scrappy guy. Showed that in the Narimani fight. I think that Narimani would beat Boston Salmon personally. But Khalid Taha leaves a lot of openings for pretty much getting hit with strikes. And if Boston Salmon's striking is as crisp and as accurate as it was against Tussios, then I think he should be able to piece up Khalid Taha here. But like I said, I'm not overly impressed with Boston Salmon. A lot of people are really high on him. I'm not on that yet. I think I need to see more from him in bigger and better opponents to see where he really is. But he is coming off a fairly bad knee injury as well. So the rust, I think, is definitely going to be there. A year and a half plus out of the game. I think that's definitely going to show a little bit. And that's why I think this fight could be kind of very sloppy and a lot closer than really what it needs to be. I like the line for Boston Salmon, like betting wise, but it is coming down to pick 'em money. I'm going to pick Boston Salmon. Like I said, I'm not super confident in his, from what I kind of see everything there, but pick 'em odds might not be the worst bet. I've seen there's a couple of guys I know that bet him up at like minus 165. That's a bad bet. That's a bad bet in my opinion, considering you were going to get maybe close to pick 'em odds by fight time. I am going to pick Boston Salmon. Lackluster decision. Taha, I think, is going to make it tough. Use his experience and just his general kind of hardiness to stay in the fight. So I'm going to pick Boston Salmon. Decision. I can see this honestly maybe being a split. Like I say, I need to see more from Boston Salmon to really be impressed with him. And but I'm going to pick him here. Moving on, we have this is a really interesting fight to me. Max Griffin, Zelim Imadaev. Lots of people have been messaging me about this Zelim guy, and I've tried to take a little bit of a break from social media and so on, because if you're on social media all the time, it's just too much. But I went in and I had 5 separate messages saying very confident in this Zelim Imadaev. So I went and watched this fight. One of the first fights I actually watched. These 5 messages actually have kind of came off probably literally 2 weeks thinking about it. So this is one of the first fights I watched. I was interested to see him. It comes out of Chechnya. You know that those guys that come out of those kind of countries are usually pretty good. And they garner a kind of lot of attention, especially when you've got an 8-0 record with all 8 wins via knockout as well. And I was not impressed one bit from anything I seen from Imadaev. Simple fact, he fought a lot of cans. Like, there's 2 ways to come up in the Russian fight game. You've got your Peter Yan way, where you come up fighting legit guys from the get-go, and you progress through there, and you face nothing but killers. Then you've got guys like this guy here, who's been facing, his last opponent was, I think, one of the only guys with a winning record, 18-8. So that was a step up in experience and opponent there. Before that, it was 9-10. Before that, it was 2-3. Before that, I want to say this guy, 3-1. So he had a winning record. At the time, he was a 0-0 fighter. So that was his first loss. I've seen him being taken down. Dmitry Tusov took him down a couple of times before getting knocked out in the second. I've seen him get hit with some decent strikes. He seems like he's got a fairly decent chin. And he has got some fairly decent technical striking. But there is definitely holes in his game. And this is a massive, and I mean a massive step up to a guy in Max Griffin, who not only is a massive step up in itself, but a massive step up to anything what Max Griffin has faced before. I mean, look at the people. He made his UFC debut short notice against Colby Covington. Now he's had Alessio dos Santos. That guy's going to be a top 10 guy if he isn't already. Killer. Had aspects in that fight where he hurt Zaleski, took a lot of shots, showed a lot of heart, a lot of durability, and that was big for me in that fight, watching him there. I should have actually looked more into him in the Mike Perry fight. Loads of people were high in Mike Perry in that one. I wasn't high. I thought he'd win the fight, but there was people unloading bankrolls on Mike Perry in that fight, like serious money, and they lost. Max Griffin made that look easy in that fight. thought of a great game plan. Lost to Curtis Millender, fairly close. Lost to Thiago Alves, but that loss, that's bullshit. Honestly, that's a bullshit loss. Down in Brazil, in Alves' hometown, everybody, not that I take much out of this, but a lot of the kind of media members, there was only 2 guys that gave it for Alves. Both were Brazilian and both work for out of like Fortaleza as well, or surrounding areas. So yeah, take with that what you will. I just think this is a massive step up. Watched a couple of interviews. Like I said, I'm not into watching that many interviews nowadays. Watched James Lynch interview with Max Griffin. Super confident coming here. He feels like he's coming off a win, even though it's an L on his record. These guys have actually sparred before, Extreme Couture. And from what Max Griffin is saying, that Zelim is one of those guys that intentionally goes too hard and likes to hurt people in sparring. And he doesn't sit back and just put apart a strike. He goes fully on deck and tries to kind of hurt you, which I think is a little bit of a pussy move personally. I'm not the biggest fan of that in a sport which is the hurt business, as they say is. But in striking, I think that Max Griffin can be competitive with this guy. I think he can do enough to get into positions where he can take down this guy. I think he can take down this guy from the clinch, from a single leg, from many aspects of his takedown game. I've seen that with Max Griffin before. I've not seen Zelim defend all that many takedowns because, like I say, he's been fighting cans. So he's still an unknown, but there is loads of people super invested in this kid. I'm not one of them. I thought it was super disrespectful, actually, that Max Griffin was an underdog to this guy. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong, and my eyes might be wrong. My eyes are terrible as it is anyway. But from what I've seen from watching the fights, in no way whatsoever should Max Griffin be the underdog to this guy. So when I seen that, I obviously jumped on the underdog money of Max Griffin. I tried to wait it out as long as I could. Saw the line started moving in America. Back, I think he is. Sorry, let me check that line. He's -115. -115 favourite. At the UK at that point, he was +100. Plus money in this guy. I'm all in. So I bet a couple of hundred on Max Griffin at +100. And I think I actually feel very, very confident. It's one of my more confident picks, but other people are seeing different. So one is going to be right, one is going to be wrong. We'll see how that goes. I like Max Griffin. I actually think he can stop this guy. If not, I think a decision could take place as well. I'll go a late stoppage for Max Griffin in that one there. Good fight here. Wilson Hayes, Alexandre Pantoja. Close fight with 2 very, very good fighters. I like Pantoja personally, but I do see this being super, super close. I think striking-wise, Pantoja is more crisp. I think he's got more variety. But Wilson Hayes is like a super experienced guy with a lot of big fights under his belt. But I think he's at that spot in his career now where you're going to start seeing him kind of fall off a little bit. Fought very well, I thought, against Ben the Win last time out to get the win there after a couple of losses. So it was a nice way to kind of rebound off that one, took Ben the Win down, and just kind of held from top position and won a fairly easy decision. Like I said before that, he lost to Moraga, lost to Cejudo, lost to DJ. So he's lost to the best flyweights there is. He's been in there with the best flyweights. Formiga also, you have to kind of put him in there. But he can be taken down as well. Formiga is like one of the kind of premier guys in that division for getting takedowns and holding position and so on. And that's kind of what happened in that fight. It was an interesting fight to watch. I should go back and watch. Then Pantoja, a little bit just dangerous, more dangerous everywhere in my opinion, with his striking, good leg kicks, kind of good movement. But like I say, he can be taken down as well. Dustin Ortiz took him down numerous occasions in that fight there, and he lost to UD in that one. The Siri fight was one I always remember because I got to watch him live. High output, lots of strikes landed, had a couple of takedowns I think mixed in there. But like I say, it's going to be interesting to see how this fight kind of goes, because Pantoja can be taken down. It's something, his takedown defense isn't overly great, to say the least. He's kind of like 50-50 with it, I think. Moreno took him down. When I saw this fight put together, I thought, I might actually bet Pantoja. And then the kind of takedowns scare me because Wilson Hayes will, I think his main aspect of this game, or this fight, will be to try and get takedowns on Pantoja. If he can, and he can establish position on top, then he could win this fight. I'm kind of seeing it more as Pantoja's going to stop a few of these, and I think on the feet, I think he's a more crisper striker, faster combination, faster hands with better combinations. And I just think he might mix it up. I'm going to go Pantoja via split decision. I see it being super close. The dog money on Wilson Hayes actually is pretty tempting because, like I say, if he can get takedowns, he will win the fight, in my opinion. So I'm more inclined to pick Pantoja via very close split decision. Moving on, the main fight of the prelims here, we've got Jalin Turner against Matt Frevola. And this is another fight that kind of caught my eye with the betting lines a little bit because I seen Jalin Turner as a massive favourite. He's a guy I liked before I watched any fights. I think with maybe a little bit of maybe recency bias coming off his fight down in Australia where he beat Callum Potter, where he caught him with a nice shot, put him down and finished him in that first round. But like I say, I'm still this. Like I say, I've seen a lot of people just keeping an eye on how the betting's going. A lot of people are betting a lot of money on Jalin Turner, and I'm not really. This is going to be fight number 13 of his pro career. Lost 4 times, been knocked out 3 times. So that's, and at the age he is, 23 years old, and you're taking knockouts like that. It's a little scary, and I'm not saying that Frevola's like a massive knockout artist, but I'm not super. I think this fight actually should be lined a pick'em in this one here. Like, he's got all the advantages really in this fight, Jalin Turner, because he's a big, long, rangy guy, and 6'3". That's kind of crazy. 6'3", fighting at 155, 77-inch reach, southpaw. So he's got all kind of decent advantages in that aspect over Frevola. Like I say, he's got more fights than Frevola. But the one thing about Matt Frevola is he's super tough, very durable. I know that fight with Paulo Reis, it was a bit of a bad fight. Came out rushing, chin in the air. Didn't look good in that fight, and ultimately paid the price against Paulo Reis, who hits like a truck and got knocked out. And that's a little bit worrisome here because Jalin Turner's most of his wins are via knockout. I think 7 of his 8 are wins inside the distance. Yeah, I think in fact all his wins inside the distance, but 7 via knockout. So, you're looking at that fight with Lando. Started off very slow. Typical Lando Venata fight where he starts off very well, then he fades. And Matt Frevola came into that fight there, landed some takedowns, advanced position a couple of times. And that's something I think he will look to do here. I think that the long limbs of Jalin Turner might be easy to kind of get this guy down. And if you look at the career of Matt outside of the UFC, Rouge Manflo, I think it's a good win to having a record. He's a tough guy. Beat Jose Flores, obviously, second round submission on the Dana White show. So a couple of fairly decent wins on his record there. Like I said, I think he can get takedowns here. I'm more on the side of Matt Frevola, actually, and it's a fight I was interested in beforehand, but I'm going to pick Matt Frevola. I think initially Jalin Turner could come out very, very quick, and that's something he has to be careful of. Don't come out all guns blazing. Keep back, kind of fight at range, not fight at range, stay at range, but try not get hit with too much. And that obviously Jalin Turner might want to kind of use that anyway, fight at range and try and land that big power shot to hurt Frevola, which we've seen he can be put down. But just don't come in all guns blazing and get hit with kind of meaningless shots, because that's only really going to boost the confidence of Jalin Turner, who looks like he's kind of on the up after that win over Callum Potter. You can't really take much away from that Callum Potter kind of win, in my opinion. Frevola's durability is what really interests me in this fight here, and his submission game. Because I think that he can take down this guy and kind of hold him there for the vast majority of this fight. So I'm actually going to pick Matt Frevola in this spot here. I think that he's... I would never bet him at plus 100. I would need a far bigger line. I don't know what the line was earlier on in the week, or last week, I should say, for this guy. But I'm going to pick Matt Frevola. Actually, I'm going to pick him via submission. Early round number 3 here over Jalin Turner. I feel more confident picking Matt Frevola, which is something I never really thought I'd say all that much in my UFC kind of predicting career, but it is what it is. So I'll pick Matt Frevola via submission, round number 3. Moving on to the main card, in the light heavyweight division, we have a rematch of Ovince Preux against Nikita Krylov. And this was a fight that I got on the line very, very quickly after watching some of the fights. And I mean, this is a fight, this is another rematch, like 5 years in the making, pretty much. It's a weird kind of rematch to make where both guys are in their career, but it's a rematch that I suppose you can run back. I love watching Krylov fight, and I've always loved watching him fight. He's a guy I actually like betting on. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. I bet him in the Sakhanov fight. I bet him last time out against Jan Blachowicz. A couple of losses there. Bet him against Rodrigo de Lima. I think I bet him against Cody Donovan in Dublin because I was there when he stopped him very late in that first round. He's a kind of fighter that the fights really don't go to submission. So like I say, this fight's pretty decent actually for maybe going after in DraftKings if you're looking for some points there. And he has turned from, I will say, I'm going to pick Nikita Krylov here. I have bet him. And his line has changed pretty dramatically. I bet him at plus 120, and his line right now is minus 115. So he is the favourite in a very close pick'em fight. And I think it's warranted. I've seen some people saying, why is Krylov favoured over OSP? And I think it goes back to, well, OSP beat him in the past and all that. So, but I think in those 5 years, I've seen, personally, I think that Nikita's moved forward. I think that his game's got better. I think Blachowicz is a really good fighter, and I think he's actually going to be a very decent test for Luke Rockhold in the summer. But that's not a bad loss on your record, I don't think. Obviously, he had his fights. He was in the UFC, left the UFC, fought some guys with some name recognition, I suppose, in Maldonado and Emmanuel Newton. But the guy's got great submissions, very dangerous striking. We've seen head kick knockouts from this guy, knees. We've seen guillotine chokes. We've seen rear naked chokes. So the guy is super dangerous in all aspects. Where I'm kind of leaning to in this fight with Krylov, I'm starting to see, I think OSP is fading out as a fighter. He is older. He's 36, maybe coming 37 very, very soon. And that's an old age to be in that division. And he's kind of been fed, attempted to be fed to these young lions. Tyson Pedro was first up. He handled him easily in that one there. He did get hit with a shot earlier on, but it recovered and got the armbar. And then he got fed to Dominic Reyes, who pretty much, I think, stopped him in that fight, but he managed to get to the decision there. And I'm just starting to see chinks in his armor, getting hit, very easy to kind of get hit now. But like I say, Reyes is a guy that hits hard. You look at his wins. I mean, Corey Anderson, he was losing that fight for launching that head kick and launching Corey Anderson's head into roll, whatever it was, at MSG. Lost to Latifi, beat Pedro, lost to Reyes. From my eyes, I think I'm starting to see a slight deterioration in his game. Is it enough to say that he can't beat Krylov here? No, because he can beat Krylov. He's got the confidence of obviously beating him before. But I just think Krylov's got more ways to win the fight. Sometimes he fights, his IQ, Krylov, is a little bit lackluster. And I think if he was to get better at that, I think that if he wasn't so aggressive in many aspects of his game, then I think he would be a better all-round fighter. He lands more as well. That's the one thing I was noticing in fights. OSP kind of likes to sit back, land a couple of shots, where Krylov's definitely more, he advances more, hits you with more shots, but then is open to get hit with more shots. And like I say, I don't think his takedown defense is that great either, Krylov. So maybe that's an aspect OSP is going to look for here. So yeah, I think Krylov's going to land more. I think he's going to hurt OSP, and I actually think he's going to stop OSP. I actually think he's going to knock him out with some ground and pound in that middle part of the fight in the second round. So yeah, I've got Nikita Krylov here, but like I say, I'm kind of 50-50 betting his fights. When I seen the plus 120, I think he was as high as minus 130. I know in the UK I only seen plus 125, maybe plus 120. I like that, and I thought the line would move. And surprisingly, I thought it would move this week, but it moved last week. So it'll be interesting to see how this week goes, if the lines are going to close back up again, or is Krylov going to go on and be a bigger favourite by fight time. But I'm glad I got the plus money, happy I got it, like the bet that I made. Just needed to cash now. I need him to go and get the revenge over OSP. But I've got Krylov here via TKO round number 2. This is an interesting fight. Alan Jouban, Dwight Grant. I think this is going to be a slow-paced fight. Jouban, we've seen in the past with... he doesn't... his output's fairly low. No. His output is fairly substantial, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I'm just having a bit of a mind fart there, but definitely lands more than what Dwight Grant throws. I think Dwight Grant has definitely got that power, like we've seen against Carlo Pedasoli. I think Pedasoli is very chinny, though. I think we've seen that he knocked that mouthpiece out fairly bad in that last fight in the Czech Republic back in February, I think it was. But Jouban definitely lands more strikes. Dwight Grant's not a guy that's going to look for takedowns. I think his takedown accuracy is fairly decent. I think it's got fairly decent takedown defense. So this is going to be a fighter between Jouban, a southpaw, against kind of like a switch stand striker in Dwight Grant. And I kind of like Dwight Grant here. I actually think I don't think he's going to make it look easy, because I don't think any of his fights he really does make it look easy. I think he could have won that auto fight. I keep going on about that. But I think with his added length, I think like with his switch stance, I think he can hurt Jouban in a couple of instances here. I think Jouban's come back a fairly lengthy injury. Not a young guy by any means. I think 38, 39 years old now. Beat Ben Saunders last time out, and that should really be a given in anybody. Saunders, and you don't beat him, you don't deserve to be in the UFC. Before that, he got subbed by Gunny, got knocked out cold against Nico Price. So we can see in both instances he can be stopped. Not that Dwight Grant, I don't think is going to submit him, because that's not his game. But he could knock him out, and we've seen Jouban knocked out before. Tumanov knocked him out back in the day. But like I say, some good wins on his record. Mike Perry, where he fought a really good game plan of kind of using leg kicks, frustrating Mike Perry, fighting long. Belal Muhammed, really good win there. Can say nothing more than that. Really good striking performance. Outlanded Belal, kind of got taken down a few times, did well to get back to his feet, and then just on the feet was just a better, more slicker striker. I just think Dwight Grant could honestly knock this guy out. I think we've seen that he's got big power. He's got a little bit unorthodox striking. That strike that he caught Pedasoli with was a beautiful, beautiful shot. But I kind of think this is going to be a slow-paced kind of striking fight where they're going to go tit for tat a little bit. But I think the shots that Dwight Grant will land will be more meaningful in the fight. That's what I think he needs. He needs a bit more strikes per minute. If he can land more, I think he will beat up Alan Jouban a little bit. This has got I've kind of got the eye on this one as being a smelly, close decision. But I think Dwight Grant has the more potential to finish the fight. Just let his hands go a little bit more. I think he can find the chin of Alan Jouban, which we've seen with good, clear precision striking, that you can beat this guy with good strikes. So I'm going to go Dwight Grant. Do I pick via stoppage? I'll pick via stoppage. If I'm talking about it, I'll go for it. But like I say, the kind of gut instinct is it's going to be a decision. But I'll go Dwight Grant, late second round, TKO victory in that one there. Moving on, Eryk Anders, Khalil Rountree Jr. In fact, what's the white ground's betting odds? That's kind of interesting me a little bit. It's over here in the UK, is actually plus 105. Interesting. But moving on, Eryk Anders, your boy, against Khalil Rountree Jr. And this is one that kind of surprised me a little bit. I was, right, so this would be, I want to say 2 weeks ago, I saw Eryk Anders was minus 155, I believe he was, maybe minus 160. And I thought, right, because I'm not a Khalil fan whatsoever. I don't think he's all that great. I'm thinking, why is Eryk Anders not a bigger favourite? And it could be that the bettors just haven't looked into this card yet, or so on. And ultimately, so within the last 4 or 5 days, Eryk Anders is now a minus 210 favourite. And that's initially where I had him at. So this is one of the last fights I actually watched fights on. And I was told from a good friend, I was like, Khalil Rountree is going to win this fight. And I'm like, I'm not too sure. I'm going to look into it and see for myself. And the more I kind of looked into it, I thought, yeah, you actually could be right in this aspect here. Eryk Anders was one of the guys I was initially thinking about betting in this card. When I seen that minus 160, I thought, should I get on it now? Because I knew the line was going to go up to him being a massive favourite. And I just couldn't do it. Thankfully, I kind of waited my time. I watched this fight last. And I'm actually going to pick Khalil Rountree in this spot. As much as I like Eryk Anders, I love listening to some of his interviews he's did in the past. I like the fact that he's went to Factory X out in Denver for this one. That's a great camp coming through. But when you watch Eryk Anders fights, they've honestly not. I'm not actually super impressed with. I think he's a good athlete. Obviously, we all know about his background. He came into the UFC, beautiful knockout of Rafael Natal, the Maluco Perez one, I think, because Maluco's kind of awkward to fight. Honestly, I still think he beat Lyoto down in Brazil, was a little bit unlucky to lose that one. I think he was definitely, I think the fight was close, but it looked like he was on his way to losing to Tim Williams before absolutely launching Tim Williams' head into the rafters in Nebraska last year. Short notice fight against Thiago Santos. That's gangster shit going down to Brazil there, facing that guy. Took a hell of a lot of damage, was very, very gassed in that one, took a lot of hits. Came back fairly short notice again against Elias Theodoro. And that must be a smelly one to have on your record, losing to Elias via split. He had his moments in that fight, but Elias, it's just one of those typical Elias fights I hate. And now he's moved up to 205 here, and he's got Khalil Rountree. Like I say, if you guys have watched me talk about Khalil Rountree in the past, not the biggest fan of the guy. I've bet against him and been burnt. The 2 times the one time I bet on Khalil Rountree, or twice I've bet against him. Let me see. No, I picked Paul Craig, which was a bad pick. Scottish bias maybe in that one there. Yeah, I actually think I bet him against Tyson Pedro, and he got starched there. No, it wasn't. It was Gokhan Saki. Actually, I'm one of these guys. I don't max bet all that often. It was only the one time I bet against him, and I max bet Gokhan Saki. I thought if this is going to be a striking fight, the better striker here with the more experience, vicious power. I like Gokhan Saki in that spot, and he came out there and knocked Gokhan Saki the F out. So yeah. His fight before that, Oleksichuk. I think we've seen that guy's actually a really good fighter. He's going to be a really good fighter. Then we've seen him against Johnny Walker. But you guys know I'm looking for the right time to fade that guy, but the guy's got a lot of very good aspects of his game. Massive power, very unorthodox, very quick. And in that fight, he got caught in the clinch of the plum clinch there, tied up and ate elbows 4 days and got knocked out stiff. Seen that he's went out to Tiger Muay Thai here, and I've seen some people say, why is he going to Tiger Muay Thai? It's more of a striking thing. Tiger Muay Thai's got a great grappling. They've got a lot of great grapplers out there. We just don't really know about it because they're known about more or less for their striking, obviously. So yeah, And Eryk Anders is not really one of these guys that's really willing to use his grappling all that much. I don't know whether he's had. I'm a little bit, like I said, this is one that I'm a little bit kind of interested in, because the only time I've seen Anders really look to use his takedowns was actually the couple of times he went down to Brazil, where took Lyoto down, took Santos down on many occasions, but ate loads of strikes in that Santos fight. I think he actually got, who did he get? Did he get Perez? I think Perez, Maluko got him down a couple of times as well, off the top of my head. But the guy absorbs a lot of strikes, and is open to taking a lot of strikes as well. He kind of absorbs more than he gives out. So I think that he needs to, obviously, against Khalil, you need to look for takedowns. I think that Khalil is definitely there to get taken down. But if this stays a striking fight, and we've seen in the past that if he's a little bit reluctant to go for takedowns, then he can be beat up. And I don't think he wants to do that with a guy like Khalil. Similar sizes, definitely the more technical, bigger hitter, and you have to be super careful. So yeah, they're both 6'1", both with a 75 and a 76-inch reach, and both southpaws as well. So that's interesting. But like I say, sometimes Khalil can sit back and not throw too much, and he might lose rounds through that. Like I say, I think I'm just more willing to take Khalil Rountree in this spot. I think he could catch Anders with a big shot and hurt him. But it's the thing I'm worried about, if this fight goes on long, then I think the more output of Anders will win him the fight. So if I'm going to pick Khalil Rountree, I think I'm going to have to pick him via knockout. And like I say, Anders is tough. He's very, very tough. This is kind of, I'm going to go Khalil Rountree. It feels dirt to me even doing that, because like I said, I'm not the biggest truther in Khalil Rountree. I don't know how good a fighter he really is, and whether he's really a UFC caliber fighter. But I'm going to go Khalil Rountree. I'll go knockout, actually. Early round number 2, I'm going to go Khalil Rountree via knockout. I think he catches him with a big shot and hurts him there. I've seen people max bet Eryk Anders at that price I was mentioning, 155, 160. I don't think that's a bad bet. But like I said, I was wanting to bet Eryk Anders, and I've just kind of been swayed off from what I've seen, from just kind of looking at how their styles match up a little bit. So I'll go Khalil Rountree. Not going to be one of my more confident picks, but I'm going to take a shot on him in that spot anyway. So Khalil Rountree for the dub there. First fight of the main, the first title fight of the card is what I'm trying to say there without blah, blah, blah. So Kelvin Gastelum, Israel Adesanya for the UFC interim middleweight championship. Well, Rob Whittaker kind of heals up. I hear that he's going to be ready to fight by August, which was a couple of days ago I saw that, which is awesome. So interesting fight. If you guys watch some of my Thirsty Thoughts, I was initially on Kelvin Gastelum, and been watching more fights and seeing some things that I like out of Gastelum. There's also a lot that I like out of Israel Adesanya. I might as well just come out and say who I'm picking. I'm going to pick Israel Adesanya, but I'm kind of saying that with a little bit of kind of trepidation, because this was actually a great tweet or a great message that I got from a friend on Twitter. Actually, I think it was a tweet, actually. So I'll say who it is. Dan Levy put this tweet out. This is his 5th fight in 14 months for Adesanya. So is this fight another fight on short notice, maybe too much for someone like Adesanya? I mean, all the training camps, then into fights, cutting weight. Is that going to really add up and be too much for Adesanya? That's something I never really thought of until I seen that tweet. Great tweet, by the way, to kind of sit back and think about it a little bit. But again, you're not really looking into the fight there, but it could have a part to play in it if maybe Israel, I think in that fight with Anderson Silva, he came into that fight week, there was some stuff going on. He never mentioned what it was, but there was some big things going on. I think he was ill, but there was a couple of other things there as well. And like I said, I don't think he gave a great performance against Anderson Silva. He really should have got Anderson out of there, because Anderson's a shell of himself. But I just think it was the respect that he gave, far too much respect to Anderson Silva. It was I think it's what he said, it's his favourite fighter, his favourite fighter of all time. So he gave him a lot of respect there. What I did like, he landed some nice chopping leg kicks, a couple of nice, he used a nice long jab. But like I say, he just never threw near enough in that fight, and he won fairly convincingly, like a 29-28 decision, I think it was he won. So like rounds, I think 1 and 3 were the 2 rounds that were pretty decisive for him. But we've seen that he's very patient. Derek Brunson fought a effing terrible fight, like a terrible fight, and then got pieced up at the end of that first round. Brad Tavares was the one, super impressive against a really tough guy, well-rounded guy, and beat him up for 25 minutes. That's when my eyes really opened to Israel Adesanya. I know he had the fight with Vettori. I actually think I picked Vettori in that one. It was a little bit closer than I thought it needed to be. And then he dealt with Rob Wilkinson the way he's supposed to. Guy gets himself some bonuses. He's a really exciting guy to watch. And he's got all the physical kind of advantages here against Kelvin Gastelum. And that's another thing, actually, just watching the Countdown show yesterday. Obviously, I forgot about the Uriah Hall thing, which was 6 years ago or something. And like all the hype was obviously on Uriah Hall, and he went in there and stopped that hype and looked good in doing so. And since then, he's made himself and proven himself to be one of the better fighters. I think he'd be a great fighter at welterweight. I think he's a great fighter at middleweight. He's just a great overall fighter. There is definitely some advantages for Adesanya. I think he's the better striker, more of a varied striker. He can switch things up a lot easier. Humongous reach advantage. Really big reach advantage. Obviously, he's got 6-7 inches in height as well, but he uses his length very, very well where he's switching up. Lands more than Kelvin does, and is a far more accurate striker than what Kelvin is. But I think Kelvin obviously is a more well-rounded fighter. Guy can strike. Guy's got some super fast hands, good combinations with big power as well. We've seen that with some of the knockouts he's had in the past, and knocked out the people he should be knocking out. Absorbs more strikes. I think Kelvin absorbs more strikes, but like I say, Israel is a really good kind of pinpoint striker who will pick you at distance and make you beat you up a little. I think the big aspect of this fight is Kelvin going to look for takedowns, because I think that's where his advantage is going to be, is taking down Israel Adesanya. And I think Izzy's going to know that the way that he loses this fight is more than likely via takedowns. The only time he's been taken down, he got taken down a couple of times in the first fight, taken down against Vettori a couple of times and controlled a little bit, and taken down, I think, the one time by Brad Tavares, but that was very short-lived. And then obviously Derek Brunson was clinching for dear life, looking to take him down, couldn't take him down, and when he realised he wasn't taking him down, his ass got knocked the fuck out pretty much. So, and then, like I say, there was none of that in the Anderson fight. Kelvin's going to look for takedowns, I think, but I think he's going to struggle to get inside the reach of Israel Adesanya and the variance of strikes that he has. Kelvin's not really one for going for takedowns all that often, except for no, it was the fight I was thinking of. It's the Magny fight where he did look for a couple of takedowns, got some there, but he's predominantly a striker. Weidman took him down numerous times. Tim Kennedy took him down before he got the win late in that third round. But he is a combination with a high output usually. But I think he's going to sit back too much. I think he's going to take too much damage, and I just don't think he's going to get Izzy down as much as I think he should. I've got a feeling that Kelvin could definitely take him down on numerous occasions and maybe keep him there. But we've just never really seen that over the years. You go back even to the Rick Story fight way back in 2014, the Masuki fight. Like, he got like no takedowns in those fights except for the Rick Story when he got one there. Nico Masuki actually took him down. So it's something that he doesn't rely on all too much. He relies on his hands. But he has got very good striking. I just think he's going to struggle to get inside the reach of Israel. I think he's going to pepper him with kicks. I think he has to be careful when he hits him with kicks, though, because the fast hands of Kelvin could come into play there. And like I say, I really think he's going to struggle to get inside the reach of Israel Adesanya. And I think early on, I think Izzy's going to come out fast. He's going to accumulate a couple of rounds, and then Kelvin realizes, right, I have to get into this, and maybe he'll get takedowns then. But I don't see Kelvin knocking him out. I'd be surprised if that happened. I think his way to victory is through his takedowns. But like I say, it's not something that he uses all that often. Very low average of getting takedowns in fights, and I'm not seeing it. Initially I was on Kelvin, but that's before I really looked into it as much as I did the last couple of days. And I just think that the pinpoint striking, the better striking of Israel will win him this fight. And I think he'll win over 25 minutes. Could potentially get Kelvin out of there. Like I say, Kelvin, in my opinion, his time, he has to tie up Izzy here and try and get takedowns. If he can't get takedowns, I think he's going to get pieced up and hurt with some strikes. And I think we're going to have another African champion in the UFC and another one from Nigeria there. So I'm going to pick Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya, via 25-minute. I think I'll have him winning 49-46. For Izzy there, but I'm going to pick him to win that fight. But thoroughly looking forward to it, because I think big fight for Gastelum to see. It's a big name in Adesanya. I mean, nobody's beat Adesanya in MMA, so big fight there. And the main event of the night, interim UFC lightweight championship of the world. Max Holloway, the current UFC featherweight champion, against the Diamond Dustin Poirier in a rematch. This is crazy, actually. I wasn't even making prediction videos back then when I was watching these guys. So this was a long time ago. And both very, very young in the game as well. But at that time, Poirier was definitely more advanced than what Holloway was. Holloway being 4-0. And him being a white belt. And Dustin realised in that fight that Max's best way to win that fight was through striking. So he took him down and submitted him very, very easily. And obviously, since then, Max has made huge. I mean, he came into the UFC like 4-0, like that run Costa kid earlier I was talking about. I mean, coming in 4-0 and your first fight against Poirier, even at that time, Poirier I think was ranked in the top 5 at featherweight. So, and he was due to face Ricardo Lamas before pulling out in that fight. Didn't start off his UFC tenure that great. After that, Poirier won. He won 3 straight. Justin Lawrence beat Garcia via split, then lost to Bermudez, Conor, obviously. But since then, the guy's been an absolute destroyer of men, and it's been incredible to see his advancement when he's striking, his submission games, which I think is vastly underrated, his wrestling, his fight IQ, I think, is one of the best in the UFC. His choice of strikes, his accuracy of his strikes, I think is second to none. That Ortega fight, it still baffles me to this day how he was an underdog to Brian Ortega. I have no idea. I know Ortega's a great fighter, showed a lot of heart and durability, but you've seen just how good a fighter Max Holloway was in that fight. Love that fight. Sometimes I watch fights. I do this a lot. I just watch the one guy, and you watch Max Holloway, and his fight IQ in that fight against Ortega was crazy. Shot selection, incredible. Footwork, his placement of foot, and the way he was moving out of range of strikes, his feints, was incredible. Not saying that Brian Ortega didn't land some good strikes, because he did. He got a couple of takedowns. Not that Holloway let him really stay on him for too long, but those were great fights. Like I say, with every Max Holloway fight, his adjustments are second to none. Second to none. Showed it in Aldo fights as well. Let Aldo get off, especially in the second fight. Aldo had a lot more success early on, started to make those adjustments, and then just started to beat up on Jose Aldo. And you look at the names that he's beat. I mean, Swanson's a great win. Oliveira's a great win. Stevens, Lamas, Pettis, Aldo twice. Guy's one of the best there is in the sport. And he's moving up to 155. So that weight cut's not going to deplete him. It's going to be interesting to see him at 155. But he's facing an absolute savage in Dustin Poirier. These are two of my favourite fighters in the whole entire roster. I love Dustin Poirier. I have for years. One of the nicest guys in the sport as well. He's given me so much time over the years, me talking to him about fights in Ireland and in Vegas as well. Crazy, crazy guy to be around. And I really want him to win this fight to get UFC gold, because it's something it's just something he's always wanted. And I think he is destined for it. I think sometime he's going to get a UFC gold around his waist. Obviously, you've got the whole featherweight days. As soon as he came out at featherweight after that Conor fight, it was the best thing that happened to him. And since then, he's been raging on that 155-pound division and being a complete savage in doing so. We'll start. I'll just run through his quick dominance at 155. Carlos Diego Ferreira, that's a great win in your record. Carlos is a hard fighter to face, not to mount the first. Absolutely destroy Yancy Medeiros with body shots. That'll be interesting, actually. Yancy's trains with Max Holloway, so maybe give him a little bit of input there, but that was 4 years ago. Destroyed Joseph Duffy. That was a good fight, though. Joseph Duffy gave a good account of himself. Knocked out Bobby Green. Lost to Michael Johnson. That's the big thing there. I got hit with big combination striking. I got a little bit too aggressive, and the fast hands and power of Michael Johnson came through there. Beat Jim Miller. That wasn't a good performance. He took a lot of leg kicks there. It was the fight of the night. Took a lot of damage, but ultimately got the W. In my opinion, he was on his way to beating Eddie Alvarez the first time around before that finished to a no contest. Broke Anthony Pettis. Stopped Justin Gaethje, which we've seen Justin Gaethje is a hard guy to stop. And then he put the exclamation point by knocking Eddie Alvarez's ass out back in Canada last year. All around, solid fighter. Savage. I think he's open to leg kicks. It's one thing that I still think that it's a big deficiency in his game. He doesn't defend those at all. But when you're throwing those leg kicks, he's getting ready to catch you with those big strikes. Now, his striking's not super technical. He kind of wings a little bit, but his amount of strikes that he throws is very, very high. And with every strike, he's looking to put you down and looking to hurt you. And that's something that Max has to be careful about. Like I say, the first match of these two is completely irrelevant because it's so long ago, and we've seen that DP's good overall fight game just came to fruition there and got the win via submission. But both guys are super. They land a lot of strikes per minute, which is interesting in Max's case because sometimes he sits back and evaluates, and then he makes those adjustments, like I say, and then he starts to get the output. And he's getting to that stage now where he's saying to commentators, "Look, I'm going to take this guy out now." And that's a super confident thing to have. Like I say, he is the bigger guy here, Max Holloway. He probably walks around more than what Poirier actually does. Bigger guy, height-wise, reach-wise goes to Poirier, southpaw striker. But like I say, both guys absorb a lot of strikes per minute, but they also dish out a lot. So I think this is a fight to... This is probably one maybe to stack in cash on DraftKings, which is something I'll be looking at in the next couple of days. But I'm interested to see if this fight hits the mat. I think that Holloway's his takedown defense is actually very, very good. But I think that Poirier's ground game is very, very underrated as well. I think both guys' ground game's underrated. So I don't know. I struggle to see Poirier maybe looking for takedowns consistently. And then predominantly it's going to be in the feet. And I think Holloway's just a more complete striker. And like I say, he makes great adjustments. And I think that how much that he throws is going to hurt Dustin Poirier. and Poirier's taking a lot of damage. He gives a lot of damage. You've not, like, honestly, I've been flip-flopping like a little bitch in this fight. Because Dustin Poirier at plus 200 in that region when he was there, I really wanted to bet him. Max Holloway minus 225. I would need it to come lower than that to even think about betting Max Holloway. I've got Max Holloway in this fight. I really do. Like I say, it's a tough fight for me to pick. If I was putting my hand on my heart and I had to pick one guy, I want it to be Dustin Poirier, personally. Looking at the fight, I just think Max Holloway is in his pomp right now and is a solid, great fighter. Would love to see him versus Khabib. I think that he could beat Khabib. I do. As great as Khabib is. But great fight. You guys that are going, I know there's a lot of guys that are going to Atlanta for this. You're in for an absolute treat. I've got Max Holloway, and I'm picking him via stoppage late in the fight. I'm going to go late fourth, early fifth for Max Holloway. I'm really interested to see him at 155, first of all. Because the guy's got great cardio, never stops, and it's just an incredible fight to watch. So I'm interested to see him at 155 and see what he's like there. Poirier's a savage, though. Poirier's going to make this a close fight. I think Max's strikes accumulation is going to really get to Dustin Poirier and he's going to knock him out. So Max Holloway via TKO, late fourth, early fifth is going to be my pick there. So that's my picks for UFC 236. I actually was going to do this one fairly quick, and I've kind of talked too much as I usually do. So hopefully you stuck around with me. I'm going to put timestamps there if there's a certain fight you want to listen to me talk about. Until next time, until next week, I think we're in Russia next week for Oleinik and the Reem. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your picks. If you've got bets, let me know. If you don't agree with any of my picks, let me know. I appreciate that. Until next time, all the best, and I'll see you next week for UFC St. Petersburg.